I got some TikToks for you. I got some TikToks for you. I got some TikToks for you now. Right now. Isn't that crazy? That's I brought this up because it's Milan, Italy, oldest cathedral in the world, 1386. It says built for Lucifer. I don't know about that, but 1386, and it's still standing today. Still standing loud and proud.
But now we're going to fully debunk not just the space narrative, but the gravity narrative when it comes to things like plants. This is something you've probably learned about in biology class, where plants are said to grow upwards due to a phenomenon known as gravitropism, which has everything to do with the pull of gravity. They say that plants
I went to school for forestry and we did learn about this. Gravitropism.
Have these unique properties within their cells, specialized things called statocytes, which contain starch-filled sacs called a myoplast, and that when the plant's orientation changes, let's say you knock it over, it's going to understand which direction it's oriented and try to grow upwards. And so this gravitropism has been seen in action. I thought that gravity had everything to do with this when I was growing up. However, I found out that they were claiming to grow plants in space. And my thought was, how are they growing plants in space if there's no gravity? And so I looked it up. How do they grow plants in space? And they tell us that plants are growing in space using specialized systems that provide necessary resources like water, nutrients, and light. They forgot about gravity. That debunks their lie. And I had a thought about this, thinking about the information from the tides, how there's most likely a magnetic aspect, and I wondered if plants could grow differently if placed near a magnet, to prove that magnets are impacting their growth, not gravity. And I found out that many years ago, a scientist was figuring out just that. So here is a news reporter and a man telling you what magnets can do to plants. I think this should be common knowledge among farmers. Maybe it is, but check this out.
Imagine if your plants and vegetables could germinate twice as fast as they do now. This could soon become reality, thanks to the research of Florida State engineering professor Dr. Qing-Jeng Chen, who has been conducting research to determine the effects of powerful magnets on plant life. Chen has been working with magnets for the past 4 years and has found that they dramatically affect the speed of plant growth. Chen and his colleagues conduct their research at the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory. The laboratory develops and provides a variety of research magnets at the highest fields available in the world. Using a 1.5 Tesla magnet, which is 30,000 times stronger than the Earth's magnetic field, Chen exposed plant and vegetable seeds at different time intervals. In addition, he used a control group of seeds that were not exposed to the magnets at all. The seeds were then planted, and after several days, Chen found that the seeds exposed to the magnets grew more rapidly than those not exposed.
It's just very obviously they are growing twice, 3 times faster than those non-exposure ones.
Wow, it's growing 2 to 3 times faster by being exposed to magnetism, as if they now know which direction to grow faster. Fascinating. And again, everything in this world is impacted by magnets, and our world has a magnetic field. But now we're going to fully...
Now this one's interesting. So a couple different thoughts here. This is something I want to try. I do want to try this year, planting some seeds and planting some small plants with, a magnet ring around them, and see what happens. And put magnets by them or what. I heard that the poles affect which ways. What effects it has on the plants. I hear the same thing when it comes to using magnets and stuff with the body and positive and negative charges, like different healing things for, using magnets for healing the body. Some of them are, you want to transmute pain, and others you want to bring more flow to the area. So those are maybe a positive or a negative and a positive pole of those magnets that you use for each one of those. So I thought that's interesting. But also, during the time we were all locked in our homes, I decided to start growing some microgreens and some sprouts. And, sprouts can grow in a jar and they just grow every which way, but they're a sprout. But when you grow microgreens, you can grow them in a tray. I grew them in a tray that was a foot by 2 feet. And before they actually sprouted, what you did is you put about a ½ inch of soil or 3/4 inch of soil or some sort of medium, because they don't technically need soil as microgreens. You can get them to grow without soil, which is interesting too. Knowing there's so much power in those little seeds somehow. But you have to put another tray on top of the seeds. Once you plant them, once you put them in the soil or on top of the soil, you either put another tray on top of that and sandwich those. And then I put a concrete brick on top of that, a pretty heavy one, to help them push up against that, I guess, to strengthen the direction that they grow. Otherwise, they kind of grow all spindly and don't really plant their roots down to grow and have something to grow against. So I'm not sure if that has anything to do with that, if that plays a role or whatever, but that's my experience with growing a lot of seeds and gravity and using gravity for anything towards that. But I'd like to try the magnets. I think that'd be fun, and I think that's an easy one, and you can buy magnets. So they're available. Not just not the ones that are as powerful as the one on that last TikTok we just watched here.
Why can you see the moon during the day? I got to thinking after my video earlier, I zoomed in on the moon during broad daylight. Now, I love thinking outside the box, so let's take a look at the moon during the day. And if you're paying attention, you've seen it too throughout your life, and you're seeing it a lot more lately. Now, weren't we taught that the sun illuminates the moon at night? And isn't it supposed to be on the opposite side, not 50 degrees from the sun? And that's not even where I'm going with this.
I've wondered that.
We've seen eclipses our whole life. Have you ever seen the moon traveling in front of the sun, before it gets to the sun, then over it? No? You've never seen it?
Have you guys seen that? Because the last eclipse that I can remember, I believe, 2 summers ago, maybe it was last summer. No, it wasn't last summer. It's got to be 2 summers ago now that I saw it. I was getting an oil change, and a gentleman at the oil change spot was nice enough to lend me his whatever special glasses you need to stare at the sun so you don't burn out your eyeballs. And I looked at it, and I saw the eclipse, but I didn't see the moon. I didn't see it afterwards. I didn't see it.
You just see a black object moving in front of the sun and then disappearing, and then the sun's back. You never see the moon. Let's look again. Do you see the moon like the video I just showed you, or ever in your life during an eclipse? So, the question is, if it's not the moon, what is it? Question.
That is an interesting question. Everything, probably.
Most people will never be able to zoom into the sun this close because it costs about a $40,000 setup with the lenses and fancy camera. This is not AI. This is the sun. Now, some will call it solar flares. All I know is this thing looks like a freaking organism. And if they're lying about the moon landing, if they're lying about space, if they're lying about the nature of our reality, then you can also imagine we may have been lied to about the sun. This is footage of the sun with a whole bunch of basically sunglasses on the freaking lens of the camera to be able to see it in detail. A ball of gas and fire? I'm not sure. It actually looks like a molecule or some type of organism with a microscope. And I don't think that this is 93 million miles away either. That is almost 100% guaranteed a complete lie. Now, the other thing is, if the Earth has its own consciousness, some people call it Gaia or Mother Earth, it has its own consciousness, microcosm to macrocosm, then would it make sense that the sun is an inanimate object, or that it too is sentient and some form or another living? Because crystals, Nikola Tesla said, are also living. We just don't understand them. I wonder. All I know is a ball of fire. I don't know. Maybe it's pure light. Perhaps it's a portal. Remember, you got to unlearn all the things you think you learned. Look at this frickin' thing, man. That's the sun. Most people will never be able.
What do you guys think about that? What is that? I don't know. I believe that it could be a living creature too, or have some sort of consciousness, just like our whole planet. Like, I think we're just some one big organism of some sort. That's what I think. I mean, you zoom out far enough, it seems that way. You zoom in close, it seems different. But what does this sun make you think of anything? What does it look like to you? I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting. I don't know if I've really seen many pictures of the sun before, so just thought that was interesting.
Can I prove we are a new civilization living among old world buildings in a single video? There's no way that all Capitol buildings look exactly the same, that they all have a different architect, right? Alright, here we are at the Texas State Capitol. The Capitol was made in 1988. It was constructed largely by a bunch of convicts or migrant workers. There's a bunch of convicts building this. This only took 6 years and 10 months to build. This only took 6 years and 10 months to build. Did they have power tools in 1885? No, they did not. That didn't come until 1895. So 10 years before the power tool, they were able to construct this with convicts. Alright, so here we are with the Mississippi State Capitol. And the history of it says that there were 14 architects that submitted plans in response to the architectural contest and advertised through newspapers. Okay, so there was a contest to see who would make sure that this thing was going to get built. And a bunch of architects, 14 of them, submitted plans. And of course, they picked the winner. And they chose Theodore C. Link of St. Louis, Missouri. He won the contest. Obviously, this is going to look different than all the other ones because it's a contest. Right? So let's take a look at it. Of course it will. Let's reveal what it looks like. Oh, nope. It's exactly the same. I don't know how that works, but we run a contest with 14 people, and this guy just draws up this exact same structure that we're looking at all over the United States.
Okay, here we are with the Arkansas State Capitol. And let's see who built this. Oh, it was a bunch of prisoners.
There's so much weird stuff with our Capitol buildings and so many buildings in the United States. It's just crazy. A lot of what I hear people say that have been brought up to my attention is that, once again, the really short time frames that they say they built these buildings. Also that there are a lot of contest winners that are the architects, so they want a contest to be able to design this building. Like, I don't know why that works like that for all these buildings everywhere. First of all, that's just a kind of weird one. And then also that they have so many similarities between the buildings, even though they're supposed to be all by separate architects. They look way, way, way too similar to be just different architects. Nobody had a different idea. Everyone had the same style of crazy architecture. There's a lot of ways you can do stuff. There's a lot of ways you can make things look radically different very easily. And this is not an example of it in the Capitol buildings. Let's ask ChatGPT. Yo, ChatGPT.
Hey, I'm right here. What's on your mind today?
I noticed that a lot of the U.S. Capitol buildings look very similar. Is there any sort of similarities between them in the size of the arches or domes or anything like that, or numbers of statues or different things that make them similar?
Yeah, there's definitely a pattern. Most U.S. state capitol buildings took inspiration from classical architecture. Think domes, columns, and symmetrical arches, all heavily influenced by the U.S. Capitol in D.C. While not identical, many share a large central dome, porticos with columns, and balanced proportions. Some do echo similar ratios, like dome height relative to the building's base or repeating patterns of arches and columns, but the specific number of statues or exact dimensions aren't uniform. It's more like a shared family resemblance, rather than a strict formula.
I thought they were made by a bunch of different architects. Why do they look so similar, even though they supposedly were made by all these different architects that were contest winners?
They were indeed designed by different architects, often chosen through competitions. But there was a shared language of prestige at the time, neoclassical architecture. The founding era and beyond saw classical styles, domes, columns, symmetry, as symbols of democracy, stability, and grandeur. So even though each architect had their own flair, they were all drawing from the same influential playbook. In other words, those shared ideals guided their designs to echo each other.
Wow, that doesn't seem fishy at all. It just checks. It just makes the checks. Totally good. All right, what are we doing here?
What if the Grand Canyon isn't just a natural wonder, but a cover for something much older? Most people are told the Grand Canyon is simply the result of erosion over millions of years. But a 1909 newspaper article tells a very different story. According to the article, an explorer named G.E. Kincaid claimed he discovered a hidden cave deep inside the canyon. Not just a cave, a complex filled with statues, tools, and hieroglyphs that closely resembled ancient Egyptian artifacts, carvings, symbols, stone chambers. But here's where it gets unsettling. The Grand Canyon has been studied for centuries, so how could something like this simply disappear? The article claimed the discovery was quickly taken over and never publicly investigated again. Some researchers believe the artifacts weren't Egyptian at all. They suggest they belong to an ancient advanced civilization often associated with the Anunnaki. According to the theory, this same civilization built the pyramids in Egypt and massive structures across North and South America. When they left, they took their technology with them, leaving behind monumental architecture and unanswered questions. Mainstream history dismisses the story, but the article still exists. And until the site is fully explored, one question remains. Is the Grand Canyon hiding more than just layers of rock? Or is it hiding a chapter of human history we were never meant to read?
The Grand Canyon is really fascinating, though. It doesn't really look like it was washed away by water. I think I was saying that yesterday about how I think it was kind of like some plasma discharge into the earth or something, or some electrical bolt or something that scarred it, more like a burned wood project where it looks like, lightning or something, or like, kind of like a river like this, but also could then form a river afterwards in the bottom of it and run through. But this story about Kincaid, or whatever his name was, that explored this cave in the Grand Canyon. Well, apparently people try to go to that same spot today and are watched by helicopters in a spot that apparently you're not supposed to, in a no-fly zone where they're not supposed to be, because they're apparently not allowing people to go explore that section of the Grand Canyon. I know a lot of sections I believe that there's a lot of sections that are marked off that you just can't go to. It's like most places, most fun places with all the cool answers too. We want to do all the exploring.
Ever heard of the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair? This massive expo popped up out of nowhere with jaw-dropping palaces, statues, and lagoons, all built in under 2 years. But hold up.
Another one of those only built in a few years, 2 years for this whole thing. Not a problem for people back in the day. They were just hanging out. They're just slaves. They didn't have cell phones, so we just have all the time. Oh, well, they just were, whipped around a lot more by the people that were ruling them. They just had a tighter thumb on them. Just not buying that.
Why dump millions on something they'd destroy after just 6 months?
Destroy it.
Total waste of time, money,
materials, and that stuff.
Power, right? They claim it was all made of staph, this cheap plaster mix, to explain the insane speed. But look at these. Does that scream plaster or solid stone? And get this, some buildings from that era still stand today, built just as fast, and they're not crumbling fakes. How'd they pull it off in less than 2 years? Where'd they house thousands of workers? How'd they feed them? And the lumber? Experts say it'd take 30,000 acres, harvested with axes and hand saws. No way that adds up. all this mystery, and they wonder why we have questions. What were they hiding? Drop your theories in the comments. Ever heard?
Dude, if you could do this with paper mache, that would be insane still. So that's another thing, is that I was literally talking to someone this morning at the coffee shop about this very idea at the except for the Chicago World's Fairs. If you have not looked into the World's Fairs, it's something you absolutely need to do. It's weird. There's too many weird things. I'm going to be bringing up some more stuff about it because it's just weird. But I was saying how they say that they make it out of paper mache or different things, or plaster and drywall or whatever it may be. But that's exactly the materials that we use for our houses that we live in, that we call permanent structures. So I don't get it. And people have also have come to the thoughts like, if something like this is made from paper mache and all this stuff and plaster and whatever, you still need monumental framing, a lot of really good, strong framing in order to hold up all this paper mache and plaster and all this stuff to make it happen in this way. These people, they're ants down there. They're ants. They're ants. My cursor is bigger than the people down here. Not bigger than these guys, but riding a fish thing. I don't know where this comes from. It does not seem like it's American. This stuff's just bonkers, though. Either way, I hope you guys have a lovely day. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And if you like it, like and subscribe. That's the word. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day.